What's up guys, macadii here and welcome to week 1 of the GPC League where I am up against Turbo, coach of the New England Pachirisus. So if you guys are excited, don't forget to leave a like down below, I would really appreciate it. You guys have just seen the draft analysis yesterday, so hopefully it's kind of fresh in your mind what I've got, my kind of game plans with this team and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really excited to be using this team. So what we're going to do, as always, is run through what he could be bringing, what I'm going to be bringing to answer his draft, and then finally we're going to go into the battle from there. I apologise if you hear any background noise. My dad is currently deturfing some stuff, and I've got farm machinery going up and down the road, so I do apologise if there's any background noise. Hopefully it should all be fine. So what we're going to do is run through what he could be bringing. So he's got Mega Lopunny, Garchomp, Talonflame, Cofagrigus, Roserade, Blastoise, Magneton, Azelf, and Porygon-Z. Now, when I first looked at this team, the biggest problem I saw was Mega Lopunny. For some reason, I always draft teams that are insanely weak to Mega Lopunny. Like, when I look at my team, there's very few things that can take 2 hits from Mega Lopunny. So, that was not good news to start with. I had ways to revenge it with things like Terrakion and a few clever ways. I'll show you guys the Electivire set in a sec. But apart from that, I didn't have too many ways to switch into it. I mean, Fortress was probably the only way. I think that I could take like a return high jump kick and stuff like that. But then I've still got the Magneton that can trap it. Roserade can switch into it. All it needs is HP fire there. Talonflame can capitalize on it. Garchomp, it can't do too much to, and Garchomp can fire blast it. So as you can see, my switch into Mega Lopunny didn't really match up with the rest of the team. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to try and find a way to beat Mega Lopunny without having a switch into it and having ways to offensively check it. So other prominent threats was the PZ. Because my team isn't like the most bulky, especially on the special side, having something like an agility PZ with Life Orb, that could actually be really spooky, especially with how I had to have set out my team to be quite offensive to check Mega Lopunny. Other threats, obviously, Talonflame can always be a really huge threat, especially if you want to bring more offense than bulk. So that was kind of the way Mega Lopunny forced me to play, just because my bulk wasn't good enough for Mega Lopunny, so there's no point bringing tons and tons of that. I'm better off with lots of offense and just try and basically slam the team into the ground and find as many ways possible that every time something that Pokemon comes in, I get a kill. So the first Pokemon I knew I had to bring was the Terrakion. I had to bring it Choice Scarfed. I needed something to outspeed Mega Lopunny because none of my team naturally outsped it. So I had to find a way to artificially outspeed it, obviously with the Choice Scarf here. With Stealth Rock, Close Combat, Stone Edge, and his Zen Headbutt. So the Stealth Rock is designed to obviously try and set up rocks, because that helps me a lot with Talonflame and stuff like that. I know I could probably force out the Mega Lopunny the first time. He's most definitely going to switch, so I can get my Stealth Rocks up then. I'm trying to see if I can bluff not being Choice Scarf, so that's kind of the plan with that. And it was the only real rocks options that I could bring, because I didn't want to bring my my Fortress and stuff like that. So Terrakion was my best bet to slap rocks on there. With Close Combat and Stone Edge, those are the 2 main moves I'm going to click. I've got Zen Headbutt there because that allows me to do good damage to things like Roserade and also Mega Lopunny. So if I think the Roserade's coming in on the CC, I can go for the Zen Headbutt and hit both the Mega Lopunny and also the Roserade relatively hard. The final move, as I said, I didn't need any other coverage, so I decided Stealth Rock was the best way to go for this guy. So that's check number 1 to Mega Lopunny, but it is only an offensive check. I might be able to be cheeky and switch into a return or a fake out, but nothing more than that. If it goes into a Drain Punch or a high jump kick, it's definitely dead from there, so I've got to be really careful with that. Next up, we've got the Electivire. So this is a Life Orb Electivire, but a very slightly strange set, because I've got Wild Charge, Cross Chop, and Ice Punch the coverage, which hits most of the team incredibly hard. It gives me a thing to guaranteed outspeed the Roserade, which is really nice. Outspeed the PZ, so it sits in a really nice speed tier from that aspect. And Wild Charge is going to be doing quite a lot to a lot of his team. His only real reliable switch is Garchomp, and I've got the Ice Punch there, so if I can get my predictions right, catch that Garchomp on the switch, then that's going to be really nice for me. And then finally we got the Iron Deluge. So the Iron Deluge, how that works is that it's a priority move which turns all normal type moves into electric type. Only priority +1, so it doesn't work for fake outs and stuff like that with Mega Lopunny. But what it does mean is that if Mega Lopunny comes in, I can, get it to weaken me with a fake out, and I know then a return's going to then kill. I go for Iron Deluge there, As he goes to return, I get the speed boost because it activates my motor drive because it turns that move electric type. And then from there, I can Oko back with cross chop. So that's kind of, it's not the most reliable. It relies on him trying to just go for a return to try and take me out. But still, I think that's probably my best way to go from there. And it also helps me with things like Scarf PZ, because Scarf PZ is a great check to offensive teams. So having something that can capitalize on Scarf PZ, I can go for the Iron Deluge, get the speed boost, then I outspeed the PZ from there, and I can go for a cross chop. So that's the other reason why I decided to bring that. I decided to bring Rotom as well, because Rotom's a great check to a few different variants of Garchomp, not things like a sub SD, which could be a little bit spooky. Talonflame, it helps me a lot. It gives me a switch to Blastoise, gives me a sort of semi-switch to Magneton if I know it's going for Flash Cannon or something like that. So for example, if I'm up against Dragouge and he's locked himself into Flash Cannon, I can go into Rotom. And kind of a check to Mega Lopunny. Like I can take a high, I can't take 2 high jump kicks. But I don't know if I can't remember if I was Gen to take 2 returns, but it's kind of like, it's bulky enough to be able to take a hit from Mega Lopunny, but probably not to switch in from there. So with a Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, Will-O-Wisp, which allows me to obviously cripple things like Garchomp, eases the predictions for the switches, because most of the things that want to switch in, like Blastoise, not actually, I guess maybe Roserade, can still get burnt, not Blastoise, I don't know what I was saying about that, but I guess to maybe predicting a Hydro Pump, but Will-O-Wisp is always a really safe thing to click, and then Pain Split gives me some recovery, helps me against things like the Talonflame if it's trying to wear me down by just Brave Birding continually, or if it's banded and stuff like that. Next up, we've got Dragouge, and I had to bring Dragouge. That gives me a couple of checks things. It gives me a check to PZ, which is nice. It gives me a nice switch into Roserade, outside of like very, very offensive extra sensory. I can't really switch into that, but I have a good chance to live 2 of them, so that was kind of the best I could do. And this is one Pokemon where every time it comes in, it should get a kill, or at least extremely weaken something, because he doesn't actually have any immunities to Dragon-type moves, and apart from Magneton, he's got no immunity to Sludge Wave, so if the Magneton doesn't come, I'm free to click Sludge Wave, or even just drop a Draco if I want to, and get a kill basically every single time. Him Power Ground is for that Magneton switching, because that's his only switch into this guy, so I can most likely just click that quite freely, knowing that's going to be coming in, and do a huge amount of damage to that guy on the switch. We've got Max Special Attack Modest, so just hit as hard as possible. So this guy's designed to be bulky enough to take a hit from most things, and then deal ridiculous damage back. So that's really, really nice for us. Same again with the Latios. The Latios is designed to outspeed a large proportion of his team. Outside of Azelf and Mega Lopunny, I've got Psyshock, Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, and Defog with choice specs. So I wanted Life Orb to start with. Then I realised actually this could be a little bit of a win con. I can't afford this guy to get worn down, because I can take a return or an Ice Punch or something like that from Mega Lopunny. So as long as I keep this guy healthy, it could be a win con sort of late game. And I'd rather not get worn down, so the each time I come in, I get a kill. As long as I'm still healthy enough, Mega Lopunny then can't come in and try and kill me, or is forced to go for Fake Out, and then I can switch out into Terrakion or do something like that. So that was kind of the plan with the Latios, and I don't need any coverage moves at all, because he's got only Azelf that resists Psyshock, I guess the Magneton as well, and Draco Meteor and Dragon Pulse hits everything else very hard. I'm assuming I was relatively sure that the Magneton wasn't going to come, which is why I didn't bring any coverage for that. And then I need Slap Defog on there, because that helps me a little bit with rocks. But 99% of the time, I want them up, because that's going to help me against the Talonflame and stuff like that. And then finally, we got the Houndoom. I apologise for my cough. It's absolutely dreadful. But I do want to try and get this game up, and obviously let you guys know, because this one is very, very late. We got Dark Pulse and Fire Blast, which hits a lot of his team very hard, or at least most of his team neutrally. I don't think he's really got anything that's a resist dark outside of Mega Lopunny. Yeah, everything else is neutral to dark, so that's pretty good. And we got Substitute on there, so Substitute allows me to capitalize on things like the Cofagrigus. If he has the Cofagrigus to check Terrakion, which is his best check to a Scarf Terrakion, I can then switch into Houndoom, potentially get the boost from the Will-O-Wisp, and sub up. Then I can get, basically just spam Fire Blast and do huge amounts of damage. Sucker Punch does almost kills an Azelf. I think it does like 80%, something like that. And then PZ, it does about 40 to 50%. So that allows me to do a decent amount to those guys. So for example, if the Azelf Life Orb, I can, once it's worn down a little bit, I can actually Mega up quite safely its face and just go for the Sucker Punch. And the same with the PZ. If the PZ is a, agility set that's slightly weakened, I might be able to stop a sweep from there with the Sucker Punch. So it's just that kind of like little chip damage, just to try and sort of take out a few things. If the Garchomp's scarfed or something like that, and I'm behind a sub and it's not got much HP, it allows me basically just to preserve the sub from faster threats. So that is the team from there. What we're going to do now is go over to the battle where you can see exactly what happened. Okay, so we are at the battle, and as you can see, he decided to bring the Mega Lopunny, which makes sense. The Azelf, which I was like, I don't know if that looks to be potentially some sort of like choice, or it could be, like a Sash lead. Obviously there's quite a few different variations it could be, so I needed to make sure I could scout that out to try and work out what sort of set it was. The Talonflame is coming, which I was expecting like SD or something like that, so I needed to make sure I kept my Rotom healthy. That's going to be really, really important for me. The Roserade looks to be like maybe a specially defensive set, which pairs, alongside the Blastoise. The Blastoise could either be like specially defensive, or I was thinking like physically defensive AV to take on Landorus Eye, because that's his most reliable switch into it. And then finally the PZ, which could be Specs, could be Choice Scarf as well, so that's something I'd also need to try and scout out and try and see if I can get rid of. So overall I thought my best lead here was going to be the Rotom. I apologise for my coughs, it's still really, really irritating. It's one of the worst things you can get as a Poketuber. So I'm going to lead off with the Rotom, as he leads off with the Roserade predicting my lead. So I switch out here, just go into Dragouge. It makes the most sense, because I can take any hit. So he just goes for Shadow Ball, which is fantastic for me. I can just fire off a safe Dragon Pulse here, just to see what's going to come in. And out comes Donatello. So he's going to switch out here. I decide just to stay in, keep spamming those moves, and I can do a huge amount. And I get a good amount of damage on the Rotom, which is great. Not the Rotom, what am I saying? The Porygon. He decides here to stay in and go for the Tri-Attack. And I knew because I was AV, I was going to take this on the chin really, really well. So it made sense to stay in. So he goes to Tri-Attack, doesn't do too much. And I'm able to take him out with the Sludge Wave. So that's really, really nice. We're 5 and 6 up with only a few turns in. So that's really nice for me. My plan worked really, really well there. So I switch into Electivire on the Mega Lopunny, knowing I can take the Fake Out and baiting him to go for that return. Unfortunately, he thinks that I'm choiced here, so he switches out and goes into Ted, as I go for the Iron Deluge and basically reveal my set. Now here was a really, really tricky turn. I could have switched out here and preserved the Electivire, and I was thinking about this for quite a while, and I realised after doing some calcs that pretty much every single coverage move I could take, with a good chance of living with Electivire outside of stab moves. Now, if he was choice locked and he decided to go for a Zen Headbutt or a Psychic or something like that, yes, it would kill my Electivire, but that meant I would get a free sub with my Houndoom. I've weakened the Blastoise already, so I know that there's a good chance I could get a free kill at that point. So it made sense for me to stay in with Electivire. If he overpredicted and went for U-turn like he did here, that meant that I could basically get a wild charge off, and something's going to an absolutely insane amount of damage. So that was kind of the plan with the Electivire there. So that's why I stayed in, as he goes for the U-turn, switches out here and goes into the Roserades, and this is going to take a wild charge, a Life Orb wild charge from the chin, get a crit, which is really nice for me, and I'm at the amount of HP here where I can go for the Ice Punch and still live after Life Orb recoil. So that's really, really nice for me. So if the Lopunny wants to come in, it can Fake Out, but that means I'm going to just be at 1%. He just goes into Azelf, goes for U-turn, and I did the calc with the U-turn, and he looks to be specially offensive but packing U-turn. So that means, to me, he indicates that he is definitely sort of choice locked in some fashion. So out comes the Lopunny, either choice Specs or choice Scarf. He just goes for Fake Out on my Terrakion, and I can just fire off a CC here. I did really want to predict and go for that Stone Edge, but I knew I couldn't really risk it. And he brings in Ted here. Now, he knows I'm Scarf, so this kind of confirms to me that he probably is going to be Scarf himself, because there's no other way he would bring this in if he knew, there was a good chance that I'd go for Stone Edge or something like that. So I do switch out here, just go into my Dragouge and see what he's going to do. He does go for U-turn again, so this confirms to me, yeah, this guy's probably Scarf. As out comes Talonflame. At this point here, I was looking at it. Dragouge, can switch into the Blastoise, but everything else kind of bops it, so I was like, there's nothing I really want to switch in. I need to preserve that Rotom. And this gives me a free switch into Rotom, and I can basically steal the momentum back and start going for Volt switches and stuff like that. So I just let my Dragouge go down to a Brave Bird here. I can't work out whether this is choice banded or not, because it would have killed anyway. So I can go into Rotom here, just fire off a nice Volt switch, And out comes Donatello here. And I did the calcs, and at this point, I can go into Latios. Now, I didn't really want to reveal that I was Specs just yet, but everything else, like Terrakion, had a chance to not kill if it was physically defensive AV. And also, it meant the, the Azelf could come back in unless I locked myself into Stone Edge. And Houndoom had a chance to not kill, so it made sense to go into Latios. It was the only thing I could really one-shot it with realistically. So I just go for Dragon Pulse, take down the Donatello, which is really, really nice. So out comes Lopunny. Now, at this point here, I'm realizing it's coming to the end of the game. I need to try and find something that's going to be able to take on Lopunny. Now, I look at my squad and realize, actually, it is going to be my Latios. So I need to keep my Latios healthy for the long game. He's not, you know, I think his Azelf's choiced. So there's a good chance it doesn't have rocks. So it makes sense for me to stay there and keep my Latios alive to a point. So that meant that I can always take one return or one ice punch. So that means if it came down to a 1v1 at the end, then I would be able to win that 1v1. So I switch into Terrakion here, expecting a fake out or a return. Unfortunately, he makes a really good prediction there, goes to the Drain Punch, and that's my Terrakion down. So that really sets me back. I've got to try and work out what to do here. So I go into my Latios, because this basically is all I need. So I can lock myself into Psyshock or Dragon Move, and this means he can either stay in with Lopunny, get some damage on my Latios, but then die, and with the rest of my squad, I should be able to take out the Azelf plus Talonflame combo, or he can preserve Lopunny and something else dies. So it's sort of like a 50-50 that he's got to try and work out what to do. And either way, I've still got a good chance of winning from there. So I just go for Psyshock here, as he does go into Ted. And in retrospect, maybe a Dragon Pulse would be better, but I didn't want to miss the Draco because it was such a crucial point. And Dragon Pulse, I think, didn't kill. So I do just go for the Psyshock here. And I switch out, go into my Rotom here, as he goes to Him Power. So that's really nice for me. Him Power Ice predicting me to stay in and just go for another Psyshock. So that puts me in a really good position here, because I have two choices. I could either stay in with Rotom, go for Volt Switch and guarantee the kill, and also keep the momentum on my side, or I could go into Houndoom and potentially try and be cheeky and set up a sub. I thought about it. Overall, I thought, in case he's going to switch here, because Scarf Azelf's still useful, because it allows him to check, you know, the Latios and a few other things, I'm just going to go for Volt Switch here, play it safe. And he, unfortunately, does decide to go for the Him Power here. If I'd have been able to pop a sub with my Houndoom, that would have been great. But that's not much you can really do. So I just go for Volt Switch here. And now I go into my Houndoom. So this means that he's basically forced to go into Talonflame. I can switch now, go into my Rotom, which helps me quite a bit. As he goes for Brave Bird here. And that shows there that he's banded. So I know I can take one more. So I can just go for a Pain Split right now, if I remember rightly. I do just go for Pain Split because after one more return, I've got a good chance, one more Brave Bird, I've got a good chance of living a return from Lopunny. If it's not adamant, though there is a good chance that it might be. So it made the most sense just to try and preserve as much HP on Rotom as possible. So I just go for Volt Switch here. That means I can go into my Houndoom and basically sack that off. So it goes into Lopunny. I just go for the Flamethrower here or Fire Blast, just because I didn't want the Lopunny to sub up, because if he subs up predicting me to Sucker Punch, it would have been really bad. So I can just go into Latios here, take the Ice Punch on the chin, but he freezes, but I on 4, and then we get the kill from there. So that was a very, very spooky turn, considering all of the things I had to try and preserve in the long run to try and, you know, beat that Mega Lopunny to have then lost to a freeze would have been terrible. But there we go. We do end up finishing the game 2-0, so that's really, really nice for us, especially, as I said, with how scary that Mega Lop was. But anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy the battle. If you did, don't forget to leave a like. I apologize for this cough, and I can feel it coming again. But anyway, I will see you guys at the next one. Macadii out.